I recently joined a local missing person search. I don't personally know the individual who has disappeared, but we live in the same neighborhood and have mutual friends. I felt compelled to get involved in the effort. His wife had already reached out to all their friends and family, contacted hospitals and the police, but there was still no trace of him. We all came together to scour the neighborhood, checking ditches and such, just in case he had been in an accident, even though his car was parked safely at home. Better to be safe than sorry, I suppose. To cut to the chase, it's been 3 weeks, and we still haven't found him. Unsurprisingly, his wife is devastated. Many people are starting to gossip that he's just a deadbeat who decided he didn't want to be a father or husband anymore. At first, I entertained that thought myself, but then I did some digging into his social media. I noticed that his Instagram and Twitter handles matched his Reddit username, and his posts suggest he's not a criminal at all. Perhaps he's just gone a bit off the rails, or maybe he'll end up in the news for something drastic. I'm sharing this here in case anyone might have a clue about his whereabouts, especially if he's in need of professional help. Here's a glimpse of his posts. Posted in r/advice, we brought back the wrong child. I'm certain of it. This isn't something that hasn't happened before. There are reports of it happening constantly on TV and in the news. This isn't our child. Somebody else has our baby. Whether you call it a mix-up or a failure at the hospital, the child we have at home right now is just not ours, no matter what the documents say. I keep trying to tell my partner, but she doesn't want to hear it. She's attached to this child, feeding it and nurturing it, and I get it. It's hard not to bond, but this is not our child. I don't want to abandon this child. I just want to resolve this situation. I'm sure the real parents would want their child back too. We all just want things to be how they should be. I can't simply return this child to the hospital or the police and ask for an exchange. My partner and I need to come together and figure out our next steps. So, how do I convince my partner that this is not our child? Edit. Thanks for the responses and advice, everyone. I've received a lot of questions about how I know this isn't our child, so I'll clarify. First and foremost, the child doesn't resemble either of us. I'm not talking about having my father's eyes or my mother's nose. I mean that when you look at this child alongside photos of us as babies, it just doesn't match. You know how some kids look like a specific uncle or grandparent when they were young? This child doesn't have those family features. My partner was frustrated, but she insists that our unique traits just blended in an unexpected way. I disagree, especially considering everything else I've noticed. The child won't breastfeed. We have to bottle feed. It seems like the baby doesn't like the taste of my partner's milk, probably because it's not the right kind. Babies can sense those things. The child is also unusually quiet. It never cries, never smiles, never laughs. It's almost as if it's waiting for something or trying to communicate something to us, like it's deliberately avoiding bonding because we're not its real parents. I'm thinking about asking my partner to agree to another DNA test, or I could just send samples discreetly without causing a fuss, just to ensure the previous results weren't a mistake. Edit 2. I understand that some children just don't connect well, or may have a more sensitive disposition. I'm not saying this child is bad. I'm simply pointing out that it doesn't behave like our child would based on family traits. Every time our relatives come over, they mention how different this child is compared to us when we were little. That's all I'm saying. In any case, I called the hospital again and asked for the security footage from the nursery. Generally, they only keep footage for 90 days, but a nurse there believes me and secretly recorded it on her phone to share with me. This is crucial. She mentioned that sometimes there are mix-ups in the nursery, but the footage she recorded doesn't show them mixing up any babies. That doesn't mean it couldn't have happened at another time or outside the nursery. The hospital is, of course, denying everything. I've also reached out to parenting forums to see if anyone else has experienced something similar and how they realized it had happened. It's usually based on physical resemblance, a child with brown eyes when both parents have blue, or simply that the child doesn't look like either of them. Then they get DNA testing done, just like we did, and it turns out the children were swapped, just like ours. So I'm convinced that the DNA test likely gave us inaccurate results for the baby we brought home. I know for certain this isn't our child, and nothing anyone says will change my mind. Edit 3. I'm sending in another DNA sample for testing. Next, I posted in our /parenting about a major conflict my partner and I are having regarding raising this child. It's a complete mess. We brought home the wrong child from the hospital. I don't want to keep this child. I'm not suggesting we just abandon it, but we shouldn't be raising this child as our own. We should be searching for its real parents to switch back. My partner, however, insists this child is ours, even though it clearly isn't. She believes hospitals have protocols to prevent such errors and doesn't understand that no system is infallible. The problem is that she doesn't even want to try to find our real child. She's willing to go on living and raising this child instead of searching for our own. I keep asking her if our real child could be in a dangerous situation. Shouldn't we at least attempt to rescue our own flesh and blood? It makes me feel sick just thinking about what our child might be going through. Am I wrong for feeling this way? We literally have the wrong child, but nothing I say will convince her that we need to find our real child. What am I supposed to do? Some of you need to learn how to empathize with someone else's situation. How would you feel if your child was switched at birth, and you had no idea where they were or who was taking care of them? For all you know, your child could be dead. How would you feel? I can't stand the child we have right now. It doesn't feel right. I want the child that was supposed to come home with us, not this one. Next, someone posted in our /DNA about paternity test results that keep coming back falsely positive. To spare you the details, my partner gave birth a few months ago, but there was a mix-up at the hospital. We ended up bringing home the wrong child. I got suspicious and decided to take a paternity test. My partner agreed to the first one, but when it came back positive, she was satisfied that the child we have is ours biologically. I tried to tell her it was obviously a mistake and wanted to do another test. When I sent in another sample, it came back positive again. Is it common for DNA tests to yield false positives? Or could this child be a distant relative of mine, which is why the results show a connection? This definitely isn't my child. Next, someone posted in our /help expressing feelings of losing their mind. My partner and I accidentally brought home the wrong child from the hospital, and no one believes me. I keep pointing out how the child looks and acts nothing like us. I share news stories about people who discover they were switched at birth, and I found some evidence suggesting that paternity tests may not always be reliable. I just want to find my child and ensure everything is as it should be. Is that so wrong? For a long time, I never said anything negative about the child we're raising now. It's just different, not ours. It still never cries, but it never smiles or laughs, either. It drinks a lot of formula since it wouldn't breastfeed, but it hasn't grown much. Children in our families are usually big and grow fast, but at 7 months, this child can't even hold its own head up. My partner has taken it to the doctor, and they ran some tests that all came back normal. Maybe this is typical for the family the child actually belongs to, but it's just another piece of evidence to me that this isn't our child. What am I supposed to do? This isn't a movie where I can just hire a hacker to get into the hospital's database and find out the names of every child born that day. I tried looking for birth announcements in the papers from last year and even checked Facebook. In a few months, the children will turn 1, so I could search for birthday posts online, but the longer I wait, the more anxious I become, not knowing what happened to our child. How do I find our real child? Next was a post in our /legends asking about sources on changelings. Someone mentioned a creature called a changeling to me, and I'm wondering if anyone has in-depth resources about what they are, how they're recognized, and how they're dealt with. I know they vary by culture, so I'll take anything you have. Next, someone posted in our /unexplained, saying their child might not be human. My partner and I brought home the wrong child due to a mix-up, but the hospital has consistently denied any mistake. All 4 DNA tests I took came back positive, which is impossible because I know this isn't our child. I came across resources about changelings, which are non-human beings, often fairies or goblins, that swap their babies with humans so that humans raise the non-human child disguised as a human baby. I found a few tests to determine if a child is a changeling. I used an eggshell as a bowl and began cooking with it, and the child started to laugh. I almost fainted. This child never laughs, it hardly even smiles, but it giggled at the egg test. I kept testing it to be sure. One sign of a changeling is that they don't develop normally, and this child definitely doesn't. At 7 months old, it still can't hold up its own head. After my partner took it to the doctor, it finally sat up, just enough to convince her it was hitting some milestones. Certain sources say changelings act strangely when they think no one is watching. I set up a camera to monitor it, and when it was alone, I saw it crawl around and pull itself up to a standing position. But as soon as it sensed someone coming, it would drop down and pretend to be helpless so someone would pick it up. A real child doesn't act that way. I think it knows that I know. These are posts he made on Reddit, unless he has a disposable account that I can't find. I did a little searching to see if anyone was posting weird stuff about how to kill a changeling, but I haven't found anything, so I guess that's good. I also can't figure out where he got the idea of a changeling. I haven't seen any comments on his posts suggesting his child was one. Maybe he heard it from a show or stumbled across the term as he tried to justify his belief. Thanks for looking into this and trying to find out if this could be his disposable account. Next was a post in r/cutoff where someone expressed they can't take it anymore. They wrote that something is wrong with the child and they can't connect with it anymore. My partner doesn't understand. She doesn't listen to anything I'm saying. We're always fighting now over this because I can't let it go. But how could I let it go? This isn't my child. It's not hers either. It's just not, and I don't understand why she won't listen. It's not even about the mix-up anymore. There was no mistake. It was a deliberate switch. Someone wanted us to raise their child, so they took ours and left us theirs. It's a changeling. That's not so crazy if you look at nature. Kaka birds lay their eggs in another bird's nest so they don't have to raise the chicks themselves. They even toss out the other eggs to make room for their own. I can only hope that's not what happened to our child. I would rather die than find out that our child was killed and replaced with a changeling. I need to find my child. I just don't know where to start. But I can't keep sitting here and arguing about it. It's getting us nowhere. More importantly, I can't stay here because the changeling knows that I know. I can tell by the way it looks at me that something is off, like it's threatening me, aware of what's happened with its kind throughout history, warning me of what will happen if I try anything. In legends, you can beat a changeling or stick it in a fire to make its parents return and swap back your real child. But who would believe me if I suggested doing that? If I got caught trying something like that while my partner was out running errands, I would end up in prison, and we would have no chance of ever getting our child back. But I have to at least try. I'm going to take the changeling and go as far away as possible. I'll find a place in the woods and hang it up, start beating it. I'll drive it somewhere out of the way where no one will interrupt me. I'm shaking so much as I write this, knowing I can't take the car because it will attract attention. The changeling definitely knows something is up. I don't know how it will react. Whatever happens, I just have to act. I don't know what it is, but I'd rather die than continue living in this nightmare. I'd rather die than go home with nothing. Whatever happens, I did what I had to do. I just wanted everyone to know I'm not 100% sure if this is really his disposable account, but I felt compelled to share. This situation seems understandable considering his previous behavior and his wife's account of him becoming increasingly agitated and suspicious in the days leading up to his disappearance. Here's part of one of her Facebook posts from a week ago. James is still missing. Please don't let the momentum fade. People have been asking about his behavior before he vanished, as it might offer clues about where he could have gone. He's been struggling lately. We had made plans for him to see a therapist, and I worry that this might have caused him to leave so suddenly. Maybe he was afraid of being committed. I honestly don't know, and all I want is for him to come home safe. We've been discussing seeing a psychologist for a while now because I think the pressure of being a father has been overwhelming for him. He's been very anxious about our child being swapped at the hospital since BB doesn't resemble either of us, but that's just genetics. The paternity tests confirm that he is the father. Recently, he's been acting strangely, like he's walking on eggshells to make BB laugh, but when she giggles, it just seems to upset him even more. He hasn't been sleeping. He stays up nearly all night watching BB on the baby monitor. During the day, he's always glued to his phone, but he won't share what he's reading and even deletes his browsing history. He's become extremely paranoid and anxious about our child and everyone around him, constantly acting as if he's being watched. Despite this, he wouldn't talk to me, which is why I pushed for him to see a psychologist. I know some people might label James as crazy or make unfounded accusations, suggesting he's cheating on me or that I've cheated on him, but he genuinely needs help. Something isn't right, and he requires medical attention. I have no idea where he could have gone. He just vanished in the night without taking anything, no notes or belongings. Please keep looking for him. I just want him to be safe and to get the help he needs. He didn't take the baby with him, which was recommended. He just left on his own, and as far as his wife knows, he hasn't even seen the child. I've seen the baby a few times over the last few weeks, and to me, he seems happy and healthy, albeit a little on the small side. He laughs a lot, despite the circumstances. If anyone has any information about this missing person, please contact the police. Thank you.